Hey, it's Juck today.
When we talk about the weak spots of the team, that's the biggest question mark. It's the biggest weak spot. And Justin Fry, the offensive line coach, in my estimation, is the one weak spot on the coaching staff.
Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
Oh boy, that's painful. So 24/7 did a list of the 10 best college football traditions, and some of it was good, some of it was not so good, but it kind of inspired me to kind of go over some of my favorite college football traditions. So we're going to do that today because there's only so many times we can talk about the two deep on the defensive line, and I thought we'd have a little fun with that. But we do got some Buckeye tidbits and some recruiting notes to go over. I was also on the tip. By the way, welcome in. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Appreciate you guys as always. But I was on the Tailgate podcast with my buddy Luke, and we were actually talking about Brian Hartline. That was last week.
Him in as a play caller never really seemed to happen. Do you think Hartline is going to stick around for a couple years? Do you think he'll get a head coaching position somewhere else? Obviously, it probably wouldn't be a big place, but yeah.
This is something I've been thinking about recently quite a bit. And I mean, for starters, I was wondering at first, was there going to be any animosity from Hartline with bringing in Chip Kelly? After we heard him talk about Chip Kelly, it seems pretty clear to me that not at all. He is excited for the opportunity to learn under him. And Hartline is obviously, we all know, a rising star in the business. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the way he's taken his time, he's taken quite a bit more time than I thought he would to try to kind of move up the ranks.
Yep.
And I was thinking, though, this has got to be his last 2-year contract. It's got to be. I just can't see him sticking around much longer than that. I think we've already been really fortunate to hang on to him as long as we have.
Yeah, it's been amazing what he's done with our receivers. I mean, we just need a little bit better quarterback to get those receivers the ball a little bit more, which will kind of pull us into our next question for you. For me, when I look at last year's team, and the biggest questions on the team, on the position groups, are the offensive line and the quarterback. I think coming from last year, those are going to be the big ones. Obviously, I'll start with the line here. Obviously, in the offseason, Ohio State brought in Seth I can never say that name. McLaughlin.
McLaughlin.
That one's like I'd say like I got phlegm in there. I can never get it out. But they bring him in from Alabama. Obviously, some questions with him being the cause of that 4th and 31 in the Iron Bowl. He had some poor snaps against Michigan there in the playoffs. How is that offensive line looking? How is Seth? How's he looking there?
So for starters, the 4th and 31 at the Auburn game, I did see some footage recently that somebody from Auburn ran up and did the old clap and got her to do that. See, that one wasn't all on him. Now the Michigan ones, I got no excuse. However,
sure,
he seems to be have worked through that issue. But I don't know if maybe that's just a big stage thing for him or not. We'll find out.
Anyway, and I want to get to that conversation because at some point we're going to lose Brian Hartline, and obviously we don't need to think about it yet, but it just kind of crossed my mind last week. Like, man, been a while now. Been a while since he's been a top candidate to kind of move up the ranks here. He's done it right. He really has. I was checking the demographics in the audience, right? It breaks down ages and sex and everything. And this show is 98% men. So how about that, fellas? I don't know how I should take that, but it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. It doesn't surprise me because I tried to get my wife to watch like a 3-minute clip yesterday. She refused to watch the show. I tried to get her to watch like 3 minutes where I thought I was being very funny and I thought she would enjoy it. And I looked over a minute later and she was on her phone. So yeah, we just don't attract the ladies here, and that's okay. I'm perfectly happy with you, gentlemen. You're always very smart and up for a good conversation, even if I'm not. The Buckeye social media team dropped a video today. It kind of looked like they maybe threw on the lights at the shoe. They had some students come in. They had the players all suited up. And one of the students was holding an NBC. Just take a look. So I don't know if that's some kind of promo or not, but I love the videos they've been doing. Last week they did one with the linemen. They had, who'd I watch? Luke Montgomery and Donovan Jackson. And they asked them both 5 questions. One of the questions was your favorite superhero. The 2 linemen both answered the Hulk, which I thought was awesome. And how many chicken nuggets could you eat? And both answered 100 easily. Fantastic. I love offensive linemen. Chris Henry Jr., the number 2 overall player in the class of 2026, was playing in Cincinnati when he committed to the Buckeyes. Since moved out to California with his guardian, Pac-Man Jones, where he's playing at Mater Dei. And he feels like just about as solid as a Buckeye as you could be. Seems to really love Ohio State in a way that most guys don't when they're that young. Like, this guy's in. He's all in. Doesn't seem to want to play the recruiting game, or at least he hasn't. But now he says that USC, Oregon, LSU, and Alabama are pushing him hard, and he's going to be taking visits this summer to Ohio State, LSU, and Oregon so far. Those are just the ones he has planned right now. So we'll see where this one goes, but it's a long way out to signing day, and he's now close to Lincoln and close to Dan Lanning. Is there cause for concern? I don't know. He seems really solid, but something to keep an eye on. Definitely there is potentially some smoke to this Jamie French news, that Jamie French might be leaning elsewhere. Reading here from an article from On3. Mandarin High School wide receiver Jamie French, one of the most sought-after prospects in 2025, the number 23 prospect in the class, according to On3. Tennessee's making a play for the prime player. The Ohio State Buckeyes set the tone for a long time, but French told On3's Chad Simmons that currently LSU, Miami, and Texas are in his top group and will all receive officials, as will Ohio State and Tennessee. That doesn't sound great. Not sure what happened there. It felt to me for a long while like Jamie French and Vernell Brown were essentially 2 locks for this class. I pretty much had him like almost in pen, and I wasn't expecting this at all. I felt like he's loved Ohio State ever since he decommitted from Alabama. It seemed like he decommitted from Alabama and just came straight to Ohio State. Hartline liked him. That was it. Done deal. So this is surprising. I'm not sure what's led to it, but if anybody gets any info, drop it in the comments, because I haven't seen if any gossip around this or anything. But wide receiver is the position that I'm just like, yeah, whatever. If Jamie French leaves the class, that leaves it wide open for that caliber of player to walk right in. And there's still a couple out there that, DeCorian Moore, does it make him more likely to want to join the class if Jamie French isn't in there? Maybe. Does that put Khalil Lockett back in play? Maybe. Hartline was trying to talk to him for a while. And I just feel like Hartline is such a draw at this point, especially with JJ getting playing time like he is this year. He's such a draw to play for that there's going to be one guy of that caliber. And Jamie French, while he's great, he's no DeCorian Moore. And I don't think he's a Khalil Lockett either, to be honest. But I was hoping to get Jamie French, Vernell Brown, and DeCorian Moore. But now we're just getting greedy. We can't have everybody. I try to tell you guys this with offensive linemen, and you just never want to listen. When you guys are always bagging on Justin Fry, and I'm telling you, just give the guy time. He just had David Sanders in yesterday. I try to tell you, you never listen. Quit being so reactionary. Give it time. Let it play its course and then judge. Yeah. So the David Sanders family kind of shocked us this weekend, and we had some more news come out today as both Steve Wiltfong of On3 now and Alex Gleitman of Letterman Row that covers the Buckeyes both came out and said something conflicting, but both good. So Gleitman came out and said, what I'm hearing is that while many people are talking about Clemson and Georgia as the two top dogs in his recruitment, I'm actually hearing it's Georgia and Ohio State. I still think the Buckeyes, it's not going to be easy to beat the Bulldogs. They have proximity to home as he's from Charlotte, but I think the Buckeyes have now jumped Clemson in that race from what I hear. So Gleitman is thinking it is now a two-pony race between the Bucks and the Dogs at number 1 for David Sanders. Amazing development. Steve Wiltfong, Ohio State is very real in this one. I put them in the lead group alongside Tennessee, in my opinion. I'm not discounting the others, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and South Carolina. I just like the way things are currently trending for the Buckeyes and the Vols. We'll see how. And why don't I just play it for you?
Night left on one of the, and I think Ohio State is becoming one of the front runners in this recruitment. He came on this trip with his 3 sisters, his parents, and his grandparents. They got in on Friday night, left on Sunday morning, got a chance to really get around this Ohio State program and get a sense for why they're so successful developing players, particularly offensive tackles like Paris Johnson. So a crash course on Ohio State's strength and conditioning program, getting around offensive line coach Justin Fry and Ryan Day, learning more about what Ohio State does schematically to make their offensive linemen play at a high level. And I think that he is a personality fit with Ohio State's locker room. It's a short flight up from Charlotte. All the other programs that he's looking at are a short drive away from where he lives in ACC, SEC country. But Ohio State, they're going to get the last official visit as well, the weekend of June 21st. South Carolina got their official recently for the spring game. He's visited all his top schools this spring. That also includes Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Tennessee. Ohio State and Tennessee got 2 visits. I think on his last Tennessee visit, he got to shadow a player and see a day in the life of a Tennessee student. So he's really looking closely at those programs, and we'll see what happens on these official visits. I expect Georgia and Kirby Smart and them to continue ratcheting it up. There was a time where I liked where they stood. Certainly Clemson's the childhood favorite here, but Ohio State and Tennessee have momentum in this recruitment, so it'll be exciting to see what happens after these official visits. And Josh, Ohio State, they're trying to sign an elite offensive line class. They have the number 1 haul in the country overall. One of the jewels of that class is Carter Lowe, an in-state offensive tackle. I think Ohio State also leads for, and I think Ohio State is becoming one of.
I mean, what an absolute stunner. The state of this program is so strong. It's amazing. This is the kind of stuff that never used to happen, right? We never used to be this far out on a guy and then all of a sudden in on one of these type of guys. That didn't used to happen. And this is just an incredible development, whether they end up landing him or not, to be able to close the gap like that on a bunch of powerful schools when all we heard about was this guy doesn't want to be far from home. His whole family is up here. Like it's really impressive. It's really, really impressive. And this offensive line class, if it ends up with Carter Lowe and David Sanders, throw in maybe Jake Cook and Andrew Stargell, or maybe Javon McFadden out of Maryland, who's rated a little higher than those two, but I kind of like those 2 3-stars a little better. Either way, any combination, any 4 of those would obviously be a ridiculous class. And then the following cycle, we've got 4 to 5 Ohio State caliber offensive linemen right here in Ohio. 2 of them ranked very high. Will Conroy, he's probably the 3rd ranked one. He's really good. He's going to be more of a interior guy. You got Sam Greer at Hoban. He's the massive tackle. He's a top 100 guy. And then you got the 5-star Maxwell Riley, who's probably another inside guy. Adam Guthrie, he's another tackle. Just a stockpile of awesome offensive linemen in Ohio. And all of a sudden, the whole talent pool of this offensive line 3 years from now is like total studs, which would be just unbelievable. How fast things can turn. But we're not there yet. But it's looking really good. Credit to Justin Fry. Maybe I'll learn a lesson this time. Probably not. Ziggy Grady, it went great for him. So Ziggy Grady is the defensive end out of Alabama, who, in my opinion, is kind of almost identical to Damian Shanklin out of Indiana. Watch these guys, and it's almost like you're watching the same dude. I think most people prefer Grady to Shanklin. I don't know that I do. I think either one of them is a massive win. I think Marion Dye out of Indiana, the other one that they're in on pretty big, he's bigger, maybe not quite as quick. I have a feeling he might end up growing into a 3 technique. So getting one of Ziggy Grady or Shanklin would be an amazing pull. And you'd probably rather pull Grady just simply from the fact that he's from Alabama and continue to open that pipeline up. It just is, it's a very exciting little development here, what we got going on with Alabama. Your preference for Grady or Shanklin, I don't know. Guys, let me know if anybody, I know my buddy Mello prefers Grady. But I think they're both excellent, and either one's a big win. Now, London Merritt and Zahir Mathis already in the class. London Merritt, when he was on the show, was telling us that Larry Johnson was talking to him about playing the jack. And we know that they really want Justin Hill for that jack. Like, the position is made for Justin Hill. I think London Merritt's more of a true edge anyway. And then Malik Autry on his visit, he's 6'5.5", 320. The other one from Alabama that came up when Ziggy Grady came up. This dude is, I've watched more of him since we originally talked about him. He is so legit. Like, Justin Scott, really good big man. Like, this dude is just about as good. And this is an exciting one. It really is, because this just came out of nowhere. But he said his visit was awesome. It meant a lot. It wasn't just a phone call when he got the offer. The coaching staff is A1. The facility is great. It was just awesome. Coach Johnson and the whole city, the campus, Ryan Day, the whole staff. He talked to Tyleek Williams. He talked to Mike Hall. They said they loved playing for Coach Johnson, and they talked very highly of him. He met with Coach Day, and his message to him was, dream big, and Ohio State will help you get to those dreams. Love to hear that. Coach Johnson said he sees potential in him, and they have the resources at Ohio State to get him to where he needs to be. Ohio State is definitely shaking some things up in my recruitment, Grady said. So he's now scheduled an official visit June 21st to June 23rd. Amazing how fast that happened with that one too. I mean, just this quick bang, bang, bang momentum with those 2 Alabama guys and David Sanders in one weekend. And the whole projection of this has changed. It's pretty fantastic. However, they talked to McNutt. McNutt was also in town, and he said it's Ohio State. They're going to be one of my top schools. They're close to home. Like I said before, they produce athletes, they produce DBs, they produce players. I'm trying to make it to the NFL, and that's what I want to do. I want to go to the NFL. I know Ohio State can do that. They're a potential fit. Their standard that they hold themselves are very high. So his next visit is going to be Georgia on May 17th. I've been saying for over a month now that I've had an uneasy vibe about Trey to Ohio State. Last night, Jeremy Birmingham on Talking Stuff was very concerned about him dragging out his recruitment all the way to fall, and kind of posed the question, what do they do with Cody Haddad and Des Jones already committed? If Fahim Delane then commits, and maybe a kid like Kanoy wants to commit too, and Trey's still not ready, what do you do? Do you tell him, it's time to go or get off the pot, or you need to make a decision? and he was just kind of kicking this around. But it was pretty clear that he had a bit of an uneasy vibe about McNutt. And he's a guy whose intuition usually comes with some kind of fact or something he really heard based behind that intuition. And, you know, I don't know. I'm telling you, I've just not felt that the whole way he's handled this, the way he's talked about Ohio State, it's just always felt like not what you would expect from a guy whose dad is who he is and who lives where he does. It's just never felt like that. And, seems like a guy who wants to blaze his own trail. That's just the vibe I get from him. And I still think Fahim Delane is, if I was betting $10 and it could only be one, I'd put it on Fahim, which is great because Fahim's excellent. But, having both would be even more excellent. Brian Hartline's truly one of a kind. The consistent results are incredible. And every time I read about one of these receivers that is being recruited by Brian Hartline, they feel like it just sounds like they're talking about a rock star. Like they look at Brian Hartline and an offer from Ohio State as Brian Hartline offered me. Like it's like the Ohio State part is second to them. And, we know that a lot of these guys, they commit because of their relationships with their position coach in many cases. And what he's been able to do, he's an absolute wizard. And he's been so measured with his career, taking it so slow. I'm sure, could have had several opportunities to advance in the profession by now. He's taken his time. His contract goes through 2025. And obviously, we don't need to think about this for a while. But, he's got to move on at some time. I mean, he's got such a bright future in the profession. Should he want to move up like that? I mean, I think he's obviously very happy where he's living and with the state of his life. But I don't know. He's almost like a second head coach, it seems, at this point, and he's going to probably want to move on. And that's going to suck so bad. It really is. But we've been really lucky to have him this far. And I think he's raised the wide receiver room, which was on the uptick before he got in. He's raised it to a new height where now it's so ingrained in the general public mind that Ohio State has the greatest receiver room that I think it's going to stay that way, even after he leaves. And when he does leave, eventually, LJ's probably not so far off now that he just got that 2-year extension. So that's through 25 as well. We're more likely going to see 2 all-time legacies at Ohio State come to a wrap in the next few years. And yeah, man, I don't know. I was just thinking about that when we were talking on that podcast, and that's going to suck. But Larry, man, we were very close to ending last year's class with just Eric Mensa in that class. Able to flip Edric Houston back at the 11th hour. He was going to go to Bama, and it was the negative recruiting about Larry and retiring that was making him change his mind. But they were able to get him back. That negative recruiting, it was becoming very effective. And now he's following that year up with a class that's looking so far just totally bananas. And his unit is looking like the most well-rounded and certainly the most deep we've ever seen. Incredible. This guy is incredible. Talk about Justin Fry and negative fan reaction towards him. There's been a drumbeat that Larry should hang it up for 5 years, 6 years. And it wasn't until last cycle when that negative recruiting, when we almost ended with a class with Eric Mensa, that's when I was like, okay, if they hadn't been able to flip Edric at the end there, and then eventually they get Dominic Kirks too, who we haven't really talked much about, but he's a stud now. But if they hadn't been able to get Edric, that would have been an absolute disaster. Just a disaster. And Edric's looking really good, man. Really good. So, but yeah, I definitely was having my doubts that maybe it's time Larry should hang it up. And now look where he's got this room. So, maybe a little less reactionary, Juck. Just calm down, man. Let things take place and then judge. Jesus. Updated Heisman odds are out, and Will Howard is FanDuel's number 4 odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. That's kind of mind-blowing until you realize what's happening here is they just went ahead and chose the 5 top-ranked teams and the quarterback and then put them in order. So you got Quinn Ewers of Texas at 750, tied with Carson Beck of Georgia. Dylan Gabriel behind them and Will Howard are both tied. Geez, he's not even 4th. He's T2. How about that? Jaden Milroe behind Will Howard. Nico Iamaleava, Jackson Dart, and Garrett Nussmeier from Ole Miss and LSU. So you got Tennessee, Ole Miss, and LSU rounding that out. And pretty lazy. We're just going to pick the quarterbacks on the best teams and roll with that. My initial thought looking at that is kind of a weak class of returning quarterbacks this year. That really just doesn't look like a very great list of quarterbacks. But Will Howard over Milroe, I mean, are they? I'm not a Milroe believer at all. I think he's very overrated, to be honest. But I think the general public, or at least I thought the general public, thought much higher of Milroe, at least of more than they did of Will Howard. Or do we view maybe Will Howard, maybe because we talk about him in our circle and are so overly critical and break it down like that, does the general public think higher of Will Howard than we do at this point? I don't know. That's a possibility. I keep seeing Alabama in the top 5 of the polls, and I'm not quite understanding it. I just don't see it, and I certainly don't see how you can have that much faith in them to have them so much higher than Michigan. Because when you look at Alabama and you look at Michigan, other than the quarterback situation being stable-ish at Alabama, but there's talk, we don't even know if DeBoer is going to start him. I think he will, but he might not. But both lost a boatload of talent. Michigan's almost sure to have one of the best defenses again in the country. Alabama offensively will be better than Michigan. They got a really nice run game. They have a solid defense. And I'm not trying to talk Michigan up here. I just don't see how you can be so far apart with those two who kind of had the same offseason. And other than the fact that Alabama hired the coach who was in the national championship game, and Michigan hired the coach who should be coaching his first game at a group of 5 school with his brand new staff. Other than those two things, these teams are exactly the same. The Michigan folks tell me I'm crazy for saying that, and that he surely would have gotten a Big Ten job. That's asinine. That's totally asinine. Tom Herman had to go coach at Houston before he got a big job, coming off a national championship as the offensive coordinator, an innovative offensive coordinator that everybody wanted. No thanks, bud. Not buying it for a second. What I love about the Ohio State fan base, and I think it's one of the reasons that Ohio State has never been bad for an extended period of time, and everybody else has at least twice. I think one of the biggest reasons, and when I listen to other fan bases talk, it really cements this feeling for me. They don't hold their people accountable. They blindly defend all the dumb decisions, all the failures, all the missteps, and they just they just punch out instead of turning around and channeling the problem that they have to the party that should fix it. Whereas we always turn it inward. We always keep the pressure where it belongs. And I think that is one of the reasons. And the longer I do this show, the more I interact with these other fan bases, the more I see how rare it is. But I think that's the reason that we as a fan base are so different. And it really affects how we've always, how the team's always operated, how they've always operated. It's just ingrained in the culture. The Ohio State fan base has a whole lot of sway on what's done. And that's the Ryan Day hot seat conversation is just not seeming to die. And I maybe I'm wrong on what the definition of a hot seat is. I mean, I always assumed that the hot seat meant your boss is going to fire you if you don't perform this year. Now, I don't know if that's what everybody's meaning when they're saying Ryan Day in the hot seat, but I honestly don't believe that Ryan Day losing to Oregon and Michigan this year gets him fired. I think the percent of that is zero. When you look at the state the program's in right now, everything we talk about every day, it's climbing to the point now where it's at a place I don't feel we've ever been when it comes to talent acquisition, stability at the top, an incredible coaching staff. Sometimes you lose games, and sometimes you lose them at inopportune times, and sometimes you lose them to your rival. Just to have him to say that if he loses at Michigan and that's 4 in a row. Yeah, well, it is 4 in a row, but the season's not over. You're still heading into the playoffs, and who knows what happens in the playoffs. I just think it's really, I can't imagine that the guys at the top feel like he's on the hot seat. And those are the ones that matter, right? I mean, I know a lot of fans say, well, he's been on my hot seat. All right, your hot seat, I understand. But, the hot seat is referring to the guys who cut the checks. And I can't see. It would be one thing if after the Missouri game, we just saw a normal offseason. We haven't seen that. We've seen everything trend just sky high since then. I just can't see it. And who knows? I don't know how I'd feel at the time. I guess now that I'm thinking about it logically, it's probably a better thing for me because I am kind of reactionary. Hey, we'll circle back. Let's hope we don't have to, because I'll never have to look back at this again unless I don't think, let's see what I thought about losing to Michigan back then, which means I would only have to do that if we lost. We're not going to anyway. It's not going to happen. But the hot seat talk, man, I just don't get it. I'm just not seeing it. I wish somebody could explain it to me in a way that would make me understand how, after going through all the growing pains that we've gone through with Ryan Day while he's learned to be a head coach, now you could enter into this season with this kind of momentum, all these upgrades in the program, and think that it's a better idea to tear all that down and start over. I just, I'm not someone who makes excuses for people. Like, that would be catastrophic to lose that damn game again, for sure. But what does it look like 3 years after that, after you fire him? That's a big unknown. And you could say, well, it probably is going to look not good enough if you keep him. I think that depends on how they play next year, honestly. Sometimes the ball just bounces the wrong way. It's football. We know that. If they look like a damn juggernaut and they lose, what if they lost that game on a couple of fluky plays? You never know. It's more about how they play, to me. Obviously, if you play excellent, you usually get the results you want. I don't know, man. The hot seat conversation keeps coming back up. And I just feel like after all this we've seen, like, that the people who even thought that early on might have reconsidered by now. But I'm still hearing it, still seeing it all over Twitter. It's something. It's really something to me. You know what else I'm seeing all over Twitter? My gosh, man. I had no idea how many grown men my age have comments on Drake and Kalar in their rap battle. I don't know what the hell this is, but I can't get past 2 scrolls on my Twitter feed about hearing about these two fellas in their rap battle. And it's guys my age. What are you guys doing? What? I don't know who these people are. I don't know, man. Am I that out of touch? I don't know. Like, a rap battle? Are you kidding me? You've got children. What are you talking about? Yeah, man, that kind of blew my mind. Like, for like 3 days straight, there's nothing but these guys with the rap battle and talking about who has the best lyrics of the rap song battle. I apologize. I cannot help you guys with any information on that. I have no opinion. I don't know if Lamar or Kendrick or Drake is the best. I don't know. So I don't bet the Heisman either. I place a lot of bets during football season, but I don't bet the Heisman because I think it's such a group thinky award. And it seems like every year there's this momentum that builds like lickety split for one guy in like week 8. And then all of a sudden, if you don't think exactly that way, like it's, oh, of course it's this guy. And then everybody's like, yeah, of course it's that guy. In any dissenting opinion, you're an idiot. But I don't know how Dylan Gabriel isn't the favorite for the Heisman. Like Dylan Gabriel, I know he's heading into his first year, and Ewers and Carson Beck both had good years last year. All three will have very good teams. But Gabriel's got 3 really good wide receivers, a great offensive line, an aggressive coach who likes to run the score up, 50 starts under his belt. We just went over it the other day. 14,000 yards, 125 touchdowns to 20 picks. I mean, absolute monster. Imagine if we had got Dylan Gabriel in the transfer portal. I mean, be a whole lot more easy breathing here. But I might put some money on Garrett Nussmeier at those odds there. He might be worth a few bucks. He's good. He's really good. And we know LSU knows how to score the ball. But really excited to see Nico Iamaleava. That is Tennessee's $7 million quarterback who's now all grown up and ready to start for the Vols. And he looked pretty damn sharp in the bowl game, and I'm excited to see him play. I mean, he's kind of a historic figure, right? He's the $7 million guy. He's the reason that they're now allowed to pay recruits. I mean, not him specifically, Tennessee in the court case relating to him. Can you guys hear those children laughing? Who the hell is here? I think my nephews are here. Anyway, one of the biggest complaints about the transfer portal was the group of 5 schools losing their best players heading up to P4 games, right? Or P4 teams. And the numbers came out. So the group of 5 lost a total of 239 players who left group of 5 schools and moved up into the P4. And 325 dropped from the P4 down. So actually, there was a net gain of P4 players into the group of 5 when all was said and done. So a lot of people are saying, see, it's not a problem. You could say that. Or you could say that the guys who weren't good enough to play in the P4 dropped down, and the best players from the group of 5 moved up, so the group of 5 still lost talent. You could say it that way too. You guys may have seen pictures of Michigan's rings in the last couple of days. So Michigan's got these rings, man, and this isn't like some 90 or 105-year-old man's rings collection here. This is the ring collection from a single player on this last year's team. Now, how in the hell does a guy get 4 rings in one season, you might ask? Well, I got the answer. In addition to the national championship rings, Michigan players and staff members received rings for the Big Ten championship, Rose Bowl, and college football playoff championship. It's a constant reminder of the mountaintop they reached and what it's going to take to stay at the pinnacle. So you heard that right. They won a ring for the college football playoff championship and for the national championship separately. And they got these fools 4 rings apiece, which is how JJ has that picture floating around where he has like 8 rings. Like, Dude, get over yourselves. I've never seen they play clips of the game like every day and say things like, can't believe it's been 105 days already. Act like you've been there before, man. It is so weak. They are so incredibly soft and awful. God, are they awful. Speaking of that, I got something to show you guys. Where are these fools? God, they are so soft. That's Mr. Brightside. Mr. Brightside. Their big tradition that they love there. They sing a song from the Killers. Started this in 2016 when like a game director said, "Hey guys, let's sing this song." That is the antithesis of how a good college football tradition starts. That right there, a game director saying, "Guys, let's try this," and they all adopted it and they sing it and they love it. The song, coincidentally, about a guy who's paranoid that his girlfriend's cheating on him. Go figure. And that'll lead off our college football traditions. So the guy at 24/7 came out with his rankings, and he ranks them as such. Number 10, The Wave at Kinnick Stadium. That started in 2017, and that is the wave that is done towards the Children's Hospital that is built behind the stadium as the sick kids stand in the windows and watch the game from the hospital. Everybody in the stadium stops, turns, and waves to them. Absolutely fantastic. The best new college football tradition there is. So cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And it's very unique. There's not many college football traditions that are, you know, special, tearjerker kind of things, man. And it really is. It's really cool. Number 9, he lists Sweet Home Alabama. This is, of course, at the Alabama game where they play the song and roll, tide, roll, time it out in there. I mean, it's super clever. The Boomer Schooner is number 8. That's been around since 1964. Number 7 is Howard's Rock, the 25 most exciting seconds in college football. Been around since 1960 at Clemson. Number 6, Play Like a Champion Today sign, hitting the sign at Notre Dame coming out of the locker room there. Number 5, the Army-Navy game. Number 4, Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech, which has been around since 2000. Number 3, Renegade and Chief Osceola. Since 1982, Chief Osceola has been planting the spear in the middle of the Knowles Stadium. Number 2, he calls it Dotting the I, 1936. So yeah, Script Ohio is number 2. And number 1, the greatest tradition in college football history, according to Fella at 247, Rolling Toomer's Corner at Auburn. Now, it's tough to rank these things because they're very personal. I think a lot of people would say Toomer's Corner being number 1 is silly. They throw toilet paper on trees in their little downtown. But it is really great because it started so long ago, and it started kind of organically, and like that's how the best traditions start. Toomer's Drugstore on the corner was the only place where there was a telegraph machine. And when Auburn would win road games, they'd print it out on the ticker tape, and they'd go out and in celebration start throwing the ticker tape on top of the power lines. In 1970, it's rumored that one of the players said in the newspaper that they were going to beat the number 2 out of Alabama, and instead of the ticker tape, they started throwing toilet paper. Eventually, the power lines become too weighed down by the toilet paper, so they tell them to quit throwing on the power lines. They choose the oak trees, and those 2 trees become super famous for the rolling of Toomer's Corner. And in 2010, I was listening to my favorite radio show at the time, a gentleman who's since changed quite a bit, but was very good back then, and the only place you could really listen, not the only, but one of the only, to good college football conversation year long. And this call came in.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Well, Al is in Dadeville, Alabama. Hey, Al.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Well, thanks.
When Bear Bryant died, I was living in Texas, and I really didn't understand the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. But a good friend of mine that lived in Birmingham sent me a copy of the newspaper showing the Auburn students rolling Toomer's Corner celebrating Bryant's death.
Now stop. I even though I know what you just got through saying, and even though I know you're quoting from a newspaper, I just have the most difficult time ever believing that Auburn students rolled Toomer's Corner when the news broke that Coach Bryant died. Does anyone else remember that? I don't.
Do you want me to send you a copy of I still have a newspaper clipping.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of awkward here because I'm not doubting your truthfulness. I'm just, are you guys in the other room in as much shock as I am? That is just one of the most shocking things I've ever heard. I do not want to believe that is true.
Okay, let me finish my story.
Okay.
This year I was at the Iron Bowl.
There's no way that could be true.
Well, okay. This year I was at the Iron Bowl.
Okay.
And I saw where they put a Scam Newton jersey on Bear Bryant's statue.
Okay, I mean, again, that's 28 years later.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what I did. The weekend after the Iron Bowl, I went to Auburn, Alabama, because I live 30 miles away,
Sure.
and I poisoned the 2 Toomer's trees.
Okay, well, that's fair.
I put Spike 80 DF in them.
Did they die?
Do what?
Did they die?
They're not dead yet, but
They will be?
they definitely will die.
Is that against the law to poison a tree?
Well, do you think I care?
No.
Okay, I really don't.
Okay.
Roll down Tide.
Now, obviously, that was a joke by a Gump, only he wasn't joking. Al from Dadeville was Harvey Updike, and Harvey Updike killed those trees. Now, they planted new ones, and they've been rolling the new ones ever since at Toomer's Corner. And despite being such a silly TPing, I think it's a pretty awesome tradition. when you add in the story of that and Harvey Updike to it, the rivalry part of that there. I mean, the guy killed the trees, bro. Like, that's cool. I mean, it's awful, right? It's awful. I mean, it's when you talk about like, that's college football. Like, that's deep South college football hatred. And that part's cool. Not the killing of the trees. I hate what he did. College football is just something different. It breeds a different kind of hate than anything we have in American sports. And that's neat. We should embrace that. But to many Auburn folks, that's not even their favorite tradition. Their favorite tradition is Spirit. Spirit's the bald eagle that flies around the stadium and lands at the 50-yard line, and it is awe-inspiring.
Introducing Milo's new.
And only in college football will you have a team named the Tigers that has a rally cry, War Eagle. I love animals, and I'm partial to horses as mascots. That's why I love Chief Osceola and Renegade at number 3. Like that a lot. Chief Osceola planting the spear and in the band playing when they come walking out. So they do their, they're doing their whoa, whoa, and the band's playing that song. It's just that war chant. And then on the Jumbotron, they show the coach come out and the crowd goes nuts. It's a cool scene. And Renegade and Chief Osceola are on the field while this is happening. And then the team runs on the field and Chief Osceola and Renegade run out, plant the firing spear. Renegade rears back like this, and then he comes down and plants it. It is like, if you were a Florida State fan, to see that, if that was your team, would just be next level, because it's next level for me, and it's not my team. I don't like them at all. But it is something, man. It is just pump you up. And the relationship that the Seminole tribe has with Florida State, I think, is also one of the most unique things that we have in all of sport. And it's special in college football. There are not many other Native American themed teams anymore. Or anything. Like, that's almost been totally eradicated from all of sport. And the Seminole tribe was very involved in Florida State, keeping that name, keeping the tradition. It's something they're very proud of. I think that's pretty awesome. And Chief Osceola and Renegade, awesome tradition. But not all horses are good horses. Or maybe not all handlers are good handlers. And that's what they found out in Oklahoma on their Boomer schooner. They don't quite understand that a schooner doesn't have the turn radius of a Lexus, apparently. But it does not. As a whole, it's not a very impressive tradition. But the fact that it plays so much into the state of Oklahoma, as is the name Sooners. There's a lot of college football names that are very unique to the state, and I love that about college football. Despite most people probably don't even know what a Sooner is, I think it's really awesome. And when people don't know what a name means of a team, that's pretty cool too. And if you didn't know, in 1889, there was an unassigned part of Oklahoma, and they were opening up for settlement April 22nd at noon. Now, you weren't allowed to go settle that land before, and they came up with a proclamation called the Sooner Clause, which meant that if you were in that territory occupying some land prior to the opening, then you weren't going to be able to keep the land. You were called a Sooner because you were in there sooner. Well, plenty did that, and plenty got away with it. And the people who came on time and followed the rules were called the Boomers. And the Boomers resented the Sooners for what they had done, and Sooner was a very negative term. But they eventually came to embrace the term Sooner as kind of an outlaw spirit kind of deal. And in 1908, they liked it so much that they named the University of Oklahoma the Oklahoma Sooners. Boomer Sooner. What other sport do you find this kind of nonsense? Come on now. Not on the list, and I don't know how it didn't make it. Run, Ralphie, run. Come on. Ralphie to Buffalo. To think that Colorado has been in the news so much in the last year and a half, and most people don't have any idea that these guys run a real buffalo out onto the field with some dudes holding it by leashes. Like, come on, man. This is insane. With all the Dion crap, how are we not seeing more Ralphie? Like, Ralphie's the star here. And every once in a while, when they're breaking in a new Ralphie, and I love buffalo. That is an awesome animal. But, sometimes when they're young, they're a little rowdy.
Championship, and I know your last game was down in San Antonio, and when you went on to UCLA.
Hey, Jim, I don't want to interrupt, but the new Ralphie 5 just got 3 of their handlers off. There's one guy holding on, and Ralphie's running to the near sideline, now surrounded, and they finally have, to some extent, corralled her in again. Boy, she's yanking like crazy. Like that's part of the training of a new buffalo.
That's why they had to clear the field. No one.
Oh, they're having a whale of a time finally getting her settled down. There we go. Now they got her running again. And they're taking her towards the trailer once again.
Well, they were concerned about the crowd. See, in the crowd, that's when she bolted.
Yep. Hey, Eric.
Then we got the Army-Navy game on here. I don't really think the Army-Navy game belongs on here. I love the Army-Navy game. But it's a game, and it doesn't really belong compared to things like Rolling Toomer's Corner. The Army-Navy game on here, I don't really feel like it belongs on here. It's a great tradition, but it's a game. And if you're going to add games to the best traditions in college football, then you're certainly going to add the game along with the Army and Navy game and probably the Iron Bowl. So I just don't feel like a game belongs here. I get what he's trying to do and respect the game, and that's great. I love the game, but, you got things like jump around next to the Army game. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. So I would take that off the list for sure. And I might add on sailgating at Washington or the Vol Navy, the two coolest aquatic traditions in college football. The Tennessee River Vol Navy coming down with all their boats decked out in Tennessee gear, heading to the game at Neyland. And probably a cooler setting and a cooler site is the sailgating at Husky Stadium, which is probably the prettiest stadium scene in all of North America. Absolutely gorgeous. Hitting the Notre Dame sign on the way out of the tunnel may seem awesome if you think that sign is from like 1920, like it looks like, But Lou Holtz put that sign up. And when you realize it's only been around since like 85, it's not that cool anymore. So I don't really think that belongs on the list. Another one that involves touching something is Howard's Rock, which is supposedly the most exciting 25 seconds in all of college football at Clemson. I got to take this one in for myself. You be the judge. Is this the most exciting 25 seconds? This is my video from the game. Yeah, it wasn't for me either. Very overrated. So, not on my list. The hype traditions kind of have their own column here. The hype traditions kind of have their own category here. These are hype songs. So, Jump Around. Jump Around obviously is great. Everybody knows it. But you're just playing a song and everybody's rocking out to a song, which can become great traditions. I don't think they're as cool as something by the band because I like the band better. But there are some cool ones. Jump Around, definitely the coolest of all of those. The Jump Around, the first game back from COVID, was absolutely hair on the back of your neck, stand up, just madhouse, and like we're back to normal. That's the way it felt for me. It was awesome to watch. I wish I could play it so bad. I just know the thing would get no circulation. If you play a song with the copyright, they'll tell you to take it down, or they just don't circulate the video at all, and you guys wouldn't even see it show up on your page. So I'd love to play it. It is such an amazing scene. Maybe I'll link it. I'll link it in the description. The first time back from COVID, Jump Around at Camp Randall, unbelievable. It was, you'll want to watch it, I promise. And it only the first time we ever saw an opposing team jump around was the Buckeyes and Malcolm Jenkins up there. And ever since then, that was a big time televised game. The opposing team now jumps around too. I think it's cool when you got everybody involved. Maybe the greatest version of an entrance with a song is Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech. And again, our Buckeyes in 2015 was probably the best one they've ever had there. That's the Braxton Miller spin move game. That Enter Sandman that night, that was just incredible. And Lane Stadium is interesting, man. real close. Stands are real close to the field. And it's like, if you're not a little older and you've never known Virginia Tech was good football, like my kids, and when they first saw that, they're like, who the hell is this team? It's incredible. It really is. It's an incredible sight. So many of these depend on my mood. You know, obviously, Script Ohio is the greatest classic tradition there is. And it's performed by the greatest band that there is. It's recognizable worldwide, and it's just mesmerizing to watch. I don't know how you could rank any tradition over this. I can see how you could say some are tied, but putting Toomer's Corner over this, if you asked 100 college football fans to tell you what this is, and then you showed them pictures of Toomer's Corner rolled, and said, okay, tell me what these two things are called. How many do you think would identify Script Ohio, and how many do you think would identify Rolling Toomer's Corner? I don't think a lot would identify Rolling Toomer's Corner. We know it because we're football fans who are really into football, because we're watching football in the off season. I'm talking about football fans who just watch their team during the college football season. I don't think many of them would know what Rolling Toomer's Corner was. I really don't. Conversely, most of them would know what Script Ohio was. And that's why it's by far the greatest college football tradition, in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased, but I also feel like objectively, I don't feel like you could make an argument that it's not, or you could make an argument that any other was better than that by any kind of criteria. The history, the duration of it, how recognizable it is, the skill that it takes to perform it. Everything about it is perfect, and everything about it is college football, for sure. As is Rolling Toomer's Corner. But it's just, you're tossing toilet paper. Here we're talking about the greatest band in the world playing an awesome song in Le Régiment, whatever the next 6 words are to that. And I don't know French, but the song itself is a fantastic song. I mean, just the sound of it gets me amped up. It's beautiful. It's perfect, but it's not my favorite tradition. I think it's the best, but it's not my favorite. Sweet Home Alabama at Bryant-Denny. And again, here you're just playing a song and throwing in lyrics in the song. Adding Roll Tide Roll to that song is not impressive, and it's not a great tradition. And if you put that on the list, then you would certainly have to put Zombie Nation at Penn State on the list, where they throw in We Are Penn State in the song. And it's unoriginal, it's boring, and you can't put those up with the greatest traditions in college football history. I don't agree with that at all. But Alabama has a better one, and that is Dixieland Delight, in which a Southern fella from a band called Alabama sings a song, and they add in a little more creative verses at the end of his. And gosh, I wish I could play this too. Tell you what, I'll just do it for you in a little reenactment. Sorry about that. Spend my dollar on beer, parked in a holler neath the mountain moonlight. Roll Tide, hold her up tight against the wall. Make a little loving all night, a little turtle doving on a Mason-Dixon night. Beat Auburn, suits my life. And LSU, oh so right. And Tennessee too, my Dixieland delight. That. But you can see that is much more creative than adding Roll Tide Roll in the middle of Sweet Home Alabama. Now, they try to not get the students to sing that second part of Dixieland Delight. They don't want them to sing those verses in there. So they look, we're going to play it this week, but you guys don't sing your song. And it never works. And I like ones like that where they're being kind of naughty and the administration tells them not to do it and the students want to do it anyway. Very, very college football. I love that. How about the loudest college football tradition? The loudest college football tradition, and this is not close, is Sandstorm by Darude playing at South Kakalaki. And this one is just, I mean, you want to run through a wall, dude. It is amazing. I have found some footage where it's just before they cue up the song, or you might not even be able to hear the song because the crowd is so loud. So I'm going to play that right now, just a little slice of it. I mean, South Carolina is surprising for not having great football. Their fans are incredible. And the decibel level when they do that is just insane. It's absolutely insane. Those fans are crazy. I love that tune anyway. That's my favorite of all those, whatever that kind of music is called. I'm not a music guy, but that one really amps me up. That I could do it all day. All right, time for my number one. My number one college football tradition is without a doubt a Penn State whiteout. I don't think there is anything in sport that is quite like it. Everybody in college football has tried to mimic it and emulate it, and nobody can do it as good. It's absolutely insane. The environment's crazy. The spectacle is beautiful. The lighting in Penn State is really weird anyway, where the stands are kind of dark and the field's really bright. It's just everything about it. The look around the stadium, it's so barren. It's just like a stadium in the middle of nowhere. It is just, it's indescribable. I've never been to one. My son got to go to one with his buddy last year. I was so jealous. The only reason I've never been to one is because it's such a far drive in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, man, every time we play one out there, I'm like, I want to go, but gosh, I really want to drive out. That I always hear the hotels are a pain in the ass, so I never end up making the trip. But I think it's something we all got to do. It's just incredible. And it is the single biggest home field advantage in the history of college football. No doubt about it. You think of all the times we've been so much better than them and gone into that damn game. And of course, we've had to play in so many of them. I mean, it is a tough, tough place to play. A normal home field usually gets you 3 points. They have to get more than that at the whiteout. But I just love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's just the awesomest thing ever. The way it started was awesome. You know, just let's try this out one day. And then it was so amazing. And it started with the students. And next time, everybody joined in. And it just became a national phenomenon. Everybody tries to copy it. We try it with the blackout. That looks like shit on TV. That doesn't even look good at all. There's nothing about that compares. Every school tries it with a certain color. Nothing comes close to the Penn State whiteout. I think everybody should just give up because it's just at this point, you just are embarrassing yourself trying to match the whiteout. Nobody will come close. It's amazing. It's my favorite. And I don't like vulgarity. I don't like cursing on the show. It slips once in a while. But this particular tradition at LSU is just, it's so encapsulating of the state of Louisiana as a whole and LSU as a program. It's the band playing a rendition of Talking Out the Side of Your Neck, which is an older song by this band. And not quite sure when they started playing this. It wasn't that long ago. But it's another one where the students decided to add some lyrics to the song in a refrain. And, well, it pissed the whole SEC off. You got all the other fans really upset. The administration at LSU all upset. So the band was banned from playing it. The band was banned from playing Neck. And every once in a while, somebody will get them to play Neck. Now, they got to pay a fine. But if it's a big game or something, they'll just say, screw it, we're playing it. And they go so crazy. The team, the fans, the 45-year-old moms are listen, if you don't know what the refrain is, look it up. It's vulgar, okay? It's vulgar. But when you're doing something naughty, 45-year-old moms will jump right in when there's community behind it. And this thing is so legendary that Odell Beckham Jr. got the band to play neck and said to the director he would pay the fine. And it's just cool, man. It's cool. It's college football. It's kind of gross. I get it. I don't like it. There's part of me that doesn't like it, and part of me that like, man, that's just awesome. Like, anyway, neck at LSU. Enjoy. That's my show. I'll see you guys later. Juck and Bucks out.
Be a Bama fan, where at least I know I've seen 6 national championships by those Nick Saban built teams. I'll stand up next to you, still yelling Roll Tide. There's not a man that could fill his shoes. Nick Saban till I die. Roll Tide, baby!
Roll Tide! Roll Tide! Roll Tide! Roll Tide! Roll Tide!